What's going on, fellow fantasy basketball lovers? Welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Basketball this week, presented by District of Buckets. We love to see you guys again. We just hit over 100 subscribers last week. We really want to thank you guys. Make sure if you aren't subscribed, which like 80% of you aren't, hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that like button. And I'm going to get you guys to comment whether you like it or not. Tell me who is standing in the way of Nikola Jokic getting the MVP this year. All right? I think he's got it. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments. Let's roll the tape. Let's get right into it. Once again, welcome back to Fantasy Basketball this week, presented by District of Buckets. I'm here with my co-host, Carl Baltimore. And man, we had a huge week last week. We really want to thank you guys. Just got over 100 subscribers. That means a lot to us. Handshakes all around. We got a lot of good stuff for you guys coming today. We're going to talk about, I already covered all this. Let's just get into it. Standout performances. First guy, I'll go first. Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is an automatic 35 piece, bro. In his last 4 games, 39, 35, 46, 26. We won't talk about that one. But he's playing at least 30 minutes per game, usually around 36 minutes per game. He's the only hope for the Chicago Bulls. I'm sorry, Kobe. I'm sorry. Zach LaVine is the only hope. Lauri Markkanen's still out. Wendell Carter's still out. Otto Porter's still out. Shout out Zach LaVine. Roll the Zach LaVine 46-piece clip.
We're just thankful to be part of their vibe this year. LaVine looking for a season high. He's got it!
Oh, my goodness.
46 for Zach LaVine.
Man, what a hooper. Okay, we got to move on to the next guy. A guy that Boston loves, that got sent away against our will. Filled in for Kemba. Scary Terry went for 34 and 41 in consecutive games. He's playing in this 3-guard lineup that the Hornets are putting together while PJ Washington is out. Let the man shine. Let the man shoot. Shout out Scary Terry. Roll the Scary Terry 41-piece clip.
Here, open look. Got it! Oh, like oxygen. Hornets need it.
Fake with an escape dribble? You kidding me?
It's Towns and Rozier going to work. And Terry does it again!
Okay, and lastly, I got a guy that everybody loves to hear positive things about. Playing for the Pacers, TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell is a guy that's been struggling to get in the double digits in the scoring column recently. He's got a lot of pieces on that team that he's got to work with, though. 12 dimes in his last game, 4 steals, and 2 blocks with only 1 turnover in 32 minutes against the Hawks. Now, that's a point guard right there. That's what I like to see from a point guard. Roll the TJ McConnell 4 steals, 2 blocks, 12 dimes clip.
TJ McConnell clip.
The last possession to come up with that. McConnell.
Oh, wow.
Has he been good tonight?
He's in the game when it counts.
All right, that's all I got for my standout performances. Those guys hooped this last week. All point guards. You can call LaVine a shooting guard, whatever you want. He handles the ball. Who do you got, Carl? Who are your standout performers?
All right, this one's a big shout out to last week because I told all of you last week that better days were ahead for Devin Booker. Didn't expect it to be this soon as he balled out all last week. Tyler went ahead and grabbed him in a trade in our league, kind of a fleecing. We're not going to get too much into that. But, yeah, I told you guys that Devin Booker was going to slowly get it together, and he turned it around. He actually ended up turning around the Flash this week, starting to see some of those great games happen.
Cleveland?
Jenner's ex-boyfriend, Ben Simmons, a 36-piece in the last game. He's talking smack to him all game. Yo, that's shout out of the week. There's got to be no better feeling than giving your your girlfriend's ex buckets. It's got to feel great. Right on Valentine's Day, too.
Yep. He had his season high 36 points twice this week. Man, love to see it, especially now that he's on my team. Roll the Devin Booker 36-piece clip against Ben Simmons. I'm not going to put the air quotes around it. The best defender in the league. Quote Ben Simmons. Roll the Devin Booker clip.
Hey. Shot clock at 3. Hey! Booker goes
out on that play. I mean, you catch the ball right there. You got it. Because right now it forces that guy to do that.
Whew. That's buckets right there. Carl, who's your next shout out?
Next shout out is a lefty. He plays in New York. It's Julius Randle. Just because I thought that Julius Randle wasn't going to sustain his early season production, proved me wrong. And I'm a man who can admit when I'm wrong. And also I can admit when someone's been balling out. So Julius Randle had to make it on this list this week. I just love everything he's been doing. I've always loved his game. Just surprising me with just how good he's playing. And that's just a little quick one. That's it for Julius Randle.
Little 24 and 18 piece against Washington.
Yeah. Hell of a game.
Roll the Julius Randle clip.
They lost Mitchell Robinson to a fractured right hand as Randle lays it in with the left hand, and the Knicks lead is 25.
Yeah, the Knicks are dissecting these guys, carving them up, isolate and devastate. So,
yeah, Julius Randle, another guy I got on my team, bro. Man, I love when you shout out my players, Carl. Do you have anybody else for your shout outs?
Those are just my main two for this week for shout outs.
All right. That wraps out the shout out section. Thank you, Carl. Thanks for shouting out my guys.
Anytime.
We got to move into some of the guys that aren't feeling their best right now. Some of the guys that are on the injury report. I'll go. Some of the main guys, we won't cover all of them, but the main guys. Goran Dragic is still nursing his ankle. He could return this week. We aren't exactly sure. Drew Holiday is still out with what we assume to be COVID protocols due to medical. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of. What's the word? Medical. You can't talk about it. Medical.
You can't talk about it? You're another descriptor?
Yeah. No. That is whatever. They couldn't disclose what Drew Holiday was out for due to medical, whatever the word I'm blanking on right now is, but he's out with what we assume to be COVID protocols. Also out, PJ Washington out with COVID protocols. Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter Jr., and Wendell Carter are all still out for the Chicago Bulls. They're so shorthanded right now. That could be why LaVine is absolutely hooping, but he's been like that. Still out for the Cavs. Larry Nance Jr. and Kevin Love still remaining sidelined for this week. Another guy you need to be on the lookout for the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray, has a sprained ankle and is questionable for this coming game. Most likely will be fine by the middle of the week, but I don't expect them to rush his return. Continuing, James Wiseman is out for the Golden State Warriors. He's still injured. The Houston Rockets have Christian Wood still out, and Oladipo is day-to-day with a little, I believe it's a foot injury. Continuing on, Paul George for the LA Clippers is nursing a toe injury, and he's expected to return in the middle of the week, but it's not 100% sure. Anthony Davis is still suffering from Achilles soreness, so he's been kind of sitting every other game, making sure that he's not rushing his return for the Lakers. These games are just practice for the Lakers. Just get to the playoffs. Jaren Jackson Jr., we expected him to come back a couple weeks ago after he misled us, but it's looking like he's still going to be out for about another month. Along with Justice Winslow and Brandon Clark are still being out, but they are nearing a return and could actually return by the middle of this week. Mitch Robinson, fractured hand, out for about, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks, they said.
Yeah, 4 to 6.
So, sorry about that, Big Mitch. Onto the Thunder. SGA, Theo, and George Hill, all point guards for the Thunder, are out. So we got a guy we got to talk about once we move into the waiver wire pickups. But there's definitely a guy that's benefiting from it. All of the Magic are out. Don't worry about it, though, because you don't want any of them. And then lastly, Mike Conley for the Utah Jazz is remaining out. Carl, did I miss anybody that you want to talk about?
I want to talk about, I think you did a good job covering most people. I think I kind of missed some of those. Did you go, was it Hayward?
Haven't talked about Hayward.
Yeah, because Hayward just had, he's had some lower back issues. That's more just something to monitor for the future going on, especially when people start having, because, back issues tend to pop up if it's not something that's, it's different than like a broken ankle or like a sprained ankle or something like that. Like a lot of those, you have a nice set time. Like if it's like something that's just kind of bothering him, he may sit out games here and there. So that's just one to monitor. You got the Cavs guys.
Yeah, you should always be watching Glass Bones Gordon because dude can be out in an instant.
And then that's basically it. You basically got all of them that I was going to talk about.
All right, cool. That's it for our injury report this week. We got to move on to another one of the fan favorites. One of our highest viewed videos is our buy low, sell high section of the podcast. I'm going to start out. This one's a little controversial. I might have actually had him as a sell high candidate before. Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis and the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic do not necessarily mesh very well together. He had 2 really good games this week, so shout out him. But that makes him the perfect candidate for sell high. I don't anticipate him being on the Mavericks after the trade deadline. That I could be completely wrong, but I would move him personally. There's a lot of pieces you can get for Kristaps Porzingis that would help Luka Doncic out way more, and they would definitely up their value in the trade or in the win column. They would get more projected wins from moving him. Kristaps Porzingis, sell high. My buy low candidate. It's kind of like a weird buy low because he's playing well, but he's coming back from injury, coming back from COVID. Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns, when he is healthy and when he is playing consistently, is a top 5 fantasy player. This year, we haven't been able to see that because of his injuries and because of COVID. And it was an extended absence for COVID. And Naz Reid benefited from him being out. But when he does play, he is a top 5. That's a bold statement. A top 5 fantasy player. And I'm looking to buy him low. And I know you're thinking well, who would I give up for Karl Anthony Towns? Anybody from rank 15 to 30 is a good trade for Karl Anthony Towns, assuming that he's going to continue to play. But you can talk people down because he is so unsure and so inconsistent with his playing time. You can talk people down with that. You say, this guy scored more total points than Karl Anthony Towns. He may not average as many, but he's going to play twice the amount of games. And that's how you sell down, and that's how you buy low for these guys, is you start moving into the 30 to 50 rated players. So the guys that have put up a bunch of points, they aren't averaging a ton, but they play consistently and they get a lot of points for your team. So that would be a guy that I'm looking to buy low. Like I said several times already, top 5 fantasy player when he is playing. Carl, who are your buy low, sell high candidates today?
I'm actually going to start with sell high because it kind of goes into what you just said with buy low with Cat. My sell high was actually Kobe White, mostly because Kobe White just had a nice career 3-point shooting game. He's been producing pretty well consistently, but it's not it's not irreplaceable. It's not irreplaceable. You can probably flip him, and so I'm saying that right now, people have been seeing Kobe White's name a little bit more, especially after him and Zach LaVine were I think the first teammates to both make 8 threes in a game, I want to say, in NBA history. So name value is a little bit higher. And I'm saying he's a guy that if you can use him and flip him for maybe a star to buy a little bit lower, like a cat, like with someone else in a trade, like that's a name that I would consider giving up because I feel like he has a replaceable amount of value that he adds to your team every week that you can definitely make up for in the aggregate or even flip to find somebody better. So he's my sell high candidate of the week.
Cool.
Buy low. Got slow-mo Kyle Anderson for the Grizzlies. I think I mentioned him in one of our earlier videos, either as fringe guy or buy low, but it's just seeing how it's more of a buy low just off of, again, I'm doing a lot of name value stuff today. So just kind of off of name value where, maybe not a lot of guys really understand what Kyle Anderson brings to the Memphis Grizzlies because he does everything. He's a Swiss Army knife. He does just a little bit of everything. And he's a great playmaker and he's a solid rebounder. Rebounding and assists will get you points without having to risk a guy, maybe as an off shooting night. So it offsets off shooting nights or nights where he's not even really putting up shots. And he's got a great floor for your fantasy team. And I think you should pick up Kyle Anderson or find a way to get him. I'm a big believer in his game. And also this is another name, Thaddeus Young. This is also name value. So he's balling out. We all know he's balling out. But I just didn't like where his ownership was in leagues. And I was like, maybe you can kind of convince some people who aren't as high on him to get him on your team. Because you know what you'll do if you have Thaddeus Young's production in your lineup. It's looking pretty nice. Probably win a couple more games this year. So those are my two buy low guys.
Yeah, I got to intervene on this one. Thaddeus Young could be a buy low or a sell high candidate. Yeah. The way you frame it is everything. So you could buy him low and frame it as, well, he's not going to get any production once Wendell Carter comes back, Otto Porter, Lauri Markkanen comes back. He's going to be a guy that rides the bench. And that is the way you would frame it if you were buying low. If you're selling high, you could frame it as, this guy has been hooping for the Chicago Bulls. He is, as of now, a full-time starter. Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter, and Wendell Carter have no foreseeable return to the Bulls. So that's how you frame it as a sell high. It's like, he's going to continue to play. Buy low, exact opposite. The Chicago Bulls players, they're coming back eventually. You might as well just get rid of him. He's going to be another waiver wire guy. There's two sides to this coin for Thaddeus Young, which makes him a very, very valuable player, especially in deeper leagues. Deeper leagues probably love Thaddeus Young. So if you were lucky enough to get him when he first started, you've been riding this wave of Thaddeus Young getting a lot of fantasy points for your team. All right, that wraps up the buy low, sell high section. We got to move into the section that makes us all the money that we don't have yet, that everybody watches, that we get more views than the full podcast because people just want to watch the segmented version of it. Waiver wire pickups. Last week, we gave you more than we had ever given you with 12 waiver wire pickups. We're topping it again. I got, how many do I got? 16, like 20, 21, if we're including the deeper league guys. 21 guys you should be looking at on your fantasy basketball waiver wire. I got you. Carl's got you. You guys loved it last week. We're topping it. Let's start it off. DeAndre Jordan. So let me preface this. There are only 6 teams that play on Thursday. So there is a chance that Thursday can win and lose you this fantasy basketball week. The Nets are one of them. DeAndre Jordan and the Nets play 4 games this week, including one on Thursday, which only 5 other teams will do. And in his last couple of games, he is averaging, hold on, my Google Sheets is messed up. He's averaging 27.5 in the last 7 days, which is pretty good. And that's 27.5 points that you aren't going to get if you don't have a team playing on Thursday. So look to pick up DeAndre Jordan in your fantasy league. Moving on, Kendrick Nunn in the Heat. They're another team that plays on Thursday this week. They play 4 games, including one on Thursday. He's averaging 36 in the absence of Goran Dragic. That is a beautiful waiver wire ad. And he's shown it time and time again that he's going to be a consistent scorer for the Miami Heat when Goran Dragic is out. Okay, another player on the Heat, Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is playing 31 minutes a night right now as a backup on the Miami Heat. His ceiling could be very, very high, and Carl actually threw out a stat earlier that was pretty funny. Kelly Olynyk has one less or one more point total than Russell Westbrook this year?
The other time it's one more.
That's crazy. Kelly Olynyk is just as valuable, arguably, in a sense, as Russell Westbrook so far this year.
And it's because he's playing games.
Yeah, he plays them. He doesn't sit back-to-backs. He's playing whenever the Heat play. So shout out Kelly Olynyk. Moving on. Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis are good adds this week. They also play 4 games, and one of them happens to be on Thursday. You might ask, who should I pick up that kind of play the same role for the Bucks? As of late, Brook Lopez has been the starter. But in that same time span, Bobby Portis has been outplaying Brook Lopez. And so you could make a case that Bobby Portis could move into the starting lineup, in which he would see even more fantasy value. So I would argue pick up Bobby Portis before Brook Lopez, but it's going to be kind of a wash. They kind of come out with the same fantasy output. Another team that plays on Thursday and also has 4 games this week, Norman Powell and the Toronto Raptors. Norman Powell, since returning from his absence in the NBA, has been lights out, except for his one game against Boston in the last week. He's been absolutely lights out, playing really well. And like I said, he's playing a ton of minutes, and he's playing on Thursday, the game where not a lot of teams play, and he plays 4 games this week. So look out for Norman Powell.
Also, a quick correction. It's one less for Kelly Olynyk than that one more. Sorry, I had to look that up. Okay. It's 6, ESPN standard. It is 615 total for Russell Westbrook, 614 total for Kelly Olynyk.
Thanks for the correction. We don't want any more angry commenters.
Yeah.
Moving on. Daniel Tice again. I feel like I mention him almost every week. He has 4 games coming this week. Starting from now on, these guys don't play on Thursday. So these are just going to be good guys to add. Daniel Tice plays 4 games this week, 2 against the weak-ass Atlanta Hawks. There's no D in Atlanta. There's no D in the Hawks. That sounded kind of sus, but he's playing more minutes than Tristan. We're going to move on. He's playing more minutes than Tristan Thompson, even though Tristan Thompson started a few games. But Tice has been the guy that's been getting blocks and steals. He's a blocks and steals machine for Boston. I love the guy. He plays so hard. If the guy could just get a call to go his way, I feel so bad for him. But Daniel Tice has been a consistent producer for the Celtics, no matter who's healthy. He's always been a guy that you can rely on. Once again, Josh Jackson.
Yep.
Josh Jackson has 4 games coming up this week. He's playing big minutes. Another steals and blocks guy. He's a defensive stud, especially for the Pistons. He benefits more when Blake Griffin doesn't play, which seems to be more and more often. You never know. Blake Griffin probably doesn't have much of a future in Detroit, I don't think. But the guy can't play 2 games in a row anymore, it seems.
It's the first time he actually did it in years, I think, was like this past week, I want to say.
Yeah, it's crazy. He hasn't dunked since 2019, which is another crazy stat that's been popping up lately. Okay, moving on. Eric Gordon, he could be a good ad for this week. That was a weird noise. Eric Gordon could be a good ad for this week, depending on the severity of Oladipo's injury. The Rockets have 4 games this week, and he played pretty well. He literally played well every game except for the week that I told you guys to pick him up. So screw you, Eric Gordon, but he could be a good fantasy ad this week. Next up, Dougie McBuckets. Dougie McBuckets has started the last several games over Jeremy Lamb, who I'm pretty high on Jeremy Lamb. But he's seeing a significant increase in minutes, and he's the starter. He's shooting very well. If you're in a categories league, 3-point machine. The Pacers only have 3 games this week, but they have a quick start. They play Monday and Wednesday. You could probably drop him after Wednesday, but that's a good guy if you want to pick up for a Monday, Wednesday stream. Dougie McBuckets. 6 God, Lou Will, and Nick Batum and Reggie Jackson are all benefiting from Paul George's absence. That could be short-lived because PG might return this week. But in any sense, they play 4 games this week on every other day. So look out for Lou Will, who's been playing so well. Nick Batum has picked it up a little bit. We've been kind of hard on this podcast. And Reggie Jackson, who has been getting the starts in place of Paul George. Another guy, Dylan Brooks. He's averaging 30-plus minutes per game and is playing really well. 4 games this coming week against some below-average defensive teams, so look out for Dylan Brooks on your waiver wire. He could be a good add. Nerlens Noel. He is now the starter for the New York Knicks at the center position. And he will be there for the coming weeks, probably up to 6 to 7 weeks with Mitchell Robinson out. He is a blocks machine. The guy averages like 2 blocks a game or something like that whenever he starts. So Nerlens Noel could be a guy that you look out for on the waiver wire. The Knicks play 4 games this week, including a beautiful back-to-back to end the week. That's something we always love to see, is a back-to-back to end the week. You pick them up right before the end of the week. You fill up those empty spots. Chef's kiss. All right, the guy that is benefiting from all the point guard absences in OKC, a guy we mentioned last week, and he's just gotten better since. Hamidou Diallo. I got his name right this time.
There you go.
He is a starter for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he is hooping. He could be a full-time ad for you if you were in deeper leagues. He should be a full-time ad for you if you're in deeper leagues. If you're in more shallower leagues, like 10 teams, he could be a good streaming option, especially because he has 4 games this week and a back-to-back on Tuesday, Wednesday. When you're looking to stream players, back-to-backs are always a beautiful sight just because you don't have to waste a couple ad drops, acquisitions, and you kind of benefit from getting more players on your team that actually play games and that aren't sitting out. Another guy that you love to see, Derek Jones Jr. will be starting without a minutes restriction for the Trailblazers. Could be a full-time roster spot.
Airplane mode is back.
Yep, airplane mode is back. Look out for Derek Jones Jr. You don't have to add him right now necessarily. He's not owned in a lot of leagues. But Derek Jones Jr. should be a guy that is at least watch listed. If he has a couple good games in a row, immediate ad. Pick him up right away. Continuing on with the Trailblazers, we got Gary Trent Jr. Hoops every damn game. 3-point machine. Gary Trent Jr. I gotta throw in another guy that should be looked at in deeper leagues.
Okay.
This man averages a point per minute. Carmelo Anthony. He plays 23 minutes a game. Every game, 23 points. The dude is consistent at hitting in the corner. You little up fake, side step, put it up. You get at least 3 of those a game. Carmelo Anthony is a guy that should be looked at in deeper leagues because he is averaging a point per minute. Moving on, San Antonio Spurs. Jacob Podol. Still don't know how to say his name.
Podol. I've heard everything.
Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Hooping. He has a back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday. He is a double-double and a block machine. I don't even know if he should be talked about on the waiver wire because the dude should be owned. Mm-hmm. Pick up Jacob Poeltl, whatever. Well, Marcus Aldridge is out because the dude is hooping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Deeper league ads. Actually, why don't you go ahead and do your waiver wire ads, and then I'll get into deeper league ads.
Okay. That's a lot. Wow.
That was so many.
Yeah, I was saying you.
Did I steal your Dylan Brooks?
Huh?
Did I steal? You weren't doing Dylan Brooks,
No,
were you?
Dylan Brooks, no.
Okay, cool.
No. You actually didn't steal anyone from me. So
that's crazy. I did 16 before.
None of them were steals. I got 3 really quick names. One, Jayshawn Tate for the Houston Rockets. Just they're banged up, and he's a rookie. He's starting to get a lot more time for them, and I think that owned in 12.7% of leagues is pretty low for a guy that's going to see like the amount of time he'll see with these injuries going on. Because as right now, Jayshawn, trying to look it up real quick, minutes wise, like where like minutes wise at first, it's like you've seen him like just stuffed on the bench, and even though he's not getting like great minutes, like you're seeing a slow uptick, and that's just a guy to watch list right now. And keep an eye out, because I just want to see what happens with all these with all these injuries. And or not necessarily minutes, like because he hit a point where like you'd see like 20 something minutes, and now he's getting back to around like 30 a game, and that type of opportunity is kind of hard to pass up on, at least as a watch list guy. His production has also looked pretty good since honestly since the end of January, like right as he like had his pretty big 39-point fantasy game, and then he had another 47-point game against Memphis on the 4th of this month. And so there's a lot of opportunity there for him in Houston. So at 12.7, that I said 12.7, whatever it was, I'd say that's the guy you at least want to watch list and maybe even consider streaming from time to time. My second guy is a guy we talked about on the Lakers segment, is Kyle Kuzma. Also more for the fact that he's owned in 35.7% of leagues. And yes, I understand AD's going to come back and siphon a lot of those minutes, but with the way that the Lakers have been kind of shorthanded, Kuzma fills a lot of different spots, and he's a guy that I think is worth it if you can stash someone on your bench just in case any of these things happen, because he still has a solid, we talked about you're going to see on the segment, is that he had a solid floor for when it comes to his minutes, like more solid than at least I thought initially. And maybe you get AD out for a week here and there, and then boom, you plug him in your lineup and he balls out. So he's a guy that I think is owned in just he needs to be owned in more leagues at that 35.7%. And then my third guy is Patty Mills. He somehow every week is a guy I look at and I'm like, I don't really know if I should play him or pick him up. Like he's just one of those guys that I'm just never really too sure about, but he's at least in 10-man. And in 12-man, he's been on the roster the whole time. But, he's only rostered in 19.6% of leagues, and he's playing a solid bit of minutes, and he's got a necessary role. And he's a guy that I think has had, since 118, he hasn't gone below 10 double-digit fantasy points, which is something to take note as a guy like you're looking at on the bench. And I'm not saying any of these guys are like superstars, they're going to turn your whole team around, but as you know, streaming, you need to keep an eye on that. And those are my 3 guys for the week that you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's also on that Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back with Jacob Pirtle, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
So he could be a guy that you stream for those 2 days and then drop. Well, time to get into deeper league guys. Those were a couple deeper league guys, but I got some more. You thought I was done. I'm not. Patrick Williams. He's playing a lot of minutes for the Bulls. They play 4 games this week. A guy you should look at in deeper leagues. Saddiq Bey for the Detroit Pistons. He's had a bunch of boards and points in his last couple games. He could be a starter in the future, depending on the future of Blake Griffin in Detroit. Right now, it's not looking like he's got a lot of minutes, but he's a guy that should be watch listed at minimum, especially in deeper leagues. Willie Hernan-Gomez. He's getting dusted off in New Orleans. Steven Adams' production has taken a bit of hit because Willie Hernan-Gomez is getting some more minutes. A guy that has a lot of ability on the basketball court should at least be watch listed in deeper leagues. Maybe even in 10-team leagues. My guy the guy I love to talk about the most, IQ God, Emmanuel Quickly. Even with D Rose in the picture, it doesn't matter. He's still getting buckets. He put up a ton of points in the last game. Shout out Emmanuel Quickly. If he's not already owned in your deeper league, what are you doing? Next up, Terrence Ross. He's the only Orlando Magic guy I'm going to talk about this week. They only play 3 games this week, but they have a solid start to the week, starting on Wednesday. But not big on Terrence Ross. Just let it be known. But deeper leagues, look out for Terrence. And I already mentioned this guy, but I got to bring it back to him. Carmelo Anthony, point per minute. Gotta love to see it from the old man himself. Shout out Carmelo. He only has 3 games this week, but also plays a back-to-back on, let's see here, Tuesday and Wednesday. Also, he plays against the Wizards on Friday. So basically pick him up Tuesday through Friday and then drop him. He's going to get a lot of points against the Wizards, who struggle a little bit on defense, like this much on defense. All right. Now we got to move in to the Lakers segment of the podcast. I got to welcome our boy, Justice McGee. Justice, what's going on in LA?
Hey, man. 7-game win streak. Feeling great over here.
You got to take that Dodgers jersey off. Get that out of here.
I'm sorry. Too much championship power in here. My bad. Yo, we got to talk about the Lakers, man. First of all, before I even say anything, I want to say that I told you so. I want to say that I told all y'all it was time to end the slander on Kyle Kuzma, and it is indeed time to end the slander on Kyle Kuzma. But we can get into that a little bit more later. The Lakers have been great, man. 7-game win streak. Out of those 7 games, 3 of them were going to overtime with about 500 or 1 game below 500 teams in the Detroit Pistons and OKC Thunder twice. Crazy stuff, man. Honestly, Lakers, it's very frustrating. It's like the same game every game, you know. They're down in the first quarter. You get upset. They're down by 20, 15 going out in the first quarter, usually down by 10 going into halftime. And then somebody along that way says something to LeBron James. And why would you ever do that? I don't know. And then he decides that he is going to win the game. And it's been fun, man. It's been fun. But, yeah, hopping into some discussion, I just want to talk about Kuz first, because I think that it's super important that we discuss what he's been doing, man. Kyle Kuzma, you know, fantasy outlook for Kyle Kuzma has been fantastic, dude. Guy's balling. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm personally ecstatic for my man. He's worked really hard, but he's been dropping the consistent, you know, over 20 points a game in the fantasy world. You know, he's working hard. The offensive rebounds, they're up. They're up and they're stuck, you know. The rebounds in general are up and they're stuck. Guy's unreal. Since I said that comment on 125, Kyle Kuzma has been out here hooping. He got off a little slow. I was a little worried. I said it on 125. He only had 4 points that night. That was a little spooky. But after that, man, he's been in double-digit scoring 8 out of the last 10 games, which is like fantastic. You know, his scoring's up. But more importantly, the rebounds, man. He's had 5 double-digit games. 5 double-digit games in rebounds since then. And that's accumulating to his work ethic and his effort on the floor. And it's also being noticed in the fantasy world. So that's dope, man. Kyle Kuzma slander's over forever, man. Round of applause for good old Kyle. And then I want to talk to you guys a little bit. Let's say we get an injury on this Lakers roster, right? Somebody goes down. They're already shorthanded in the guard position. Let's say Dennis Schroeder. Let's just give an example. Dennis Schroeder goes down. He's missing a month of time. How do you feel about inserting a guy like THT into your lineups, man?
See, I got a little bit of an issue with Lakers players and fantasy basketball.
Okay.
The Lakers, they spread the ball around too well for fantasy basketball players. It's the love is too equal for everybody, and you can't rely on one guy. But I think if somebody like Schroeder does go down, that would benefit THT a lot, or whoever else is going to fill that spot a lot. But I don't know if I'm still picking him up in 10-team leagues, maybe like a deeper league, 12, maybe 14, 16 team leagues for sure. But I want to respond to your question. It kind of relates to that.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma benefiting from Anthony Davis going back and forth playing games?
You know what, man? I was a little concerned about that as well from fantasy outlook position, just knowing like AD is missed. He missed 2 games back to back there. We don't know if he's going to be consistently playing, if we're in a back-to-back situation going forward. So it could be a little bit inconsistent with Kyle Kuzma's minutes and his looks. But I think that it's not to be worried, man. I think that Kyle Kuzma is getting a lot of his looks by himself, and his minutes are still basically almost the same when you're looking at him in the game log position. He's still cranking out. I mean, when AD was out those 3 games, he was averaging 25 minutes a game, and since AD's come back, last night he averaged 32. Or he had 32. So the minutes there, it's just like, it's all about his play and his effort, and that's what's getting him on the floor. He's going to be on the floor no matter who's out there in that Lakers lineup, just off his effort and defense alone. He's taking it up, man. So honestly, I am in a position where I think that Kyle Kuzma should stay on rosters until he proves otherwise. I just think that he's working really hard right now, and like, nothing beats a hard worker on the offensive and defensive glass. So like, I think that just continues. His numbers are going to continue to rise, the rebounding. And if you're concerned about, the last couple of games, his 3-point shooting has been pretty pedestrian. So like, the fact that he's still cranking out these numbers, he's not even shooting the 3 well right now, is just like something to keep an eye on, man, with Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, I saw one of his crazy stats for the Lakers last week. It was Kyle Kuzma had 5 offensive boards in the 4th quarter compared to the other team's 4 total rebounds in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, man.
And he had a 4-on-1 rebound with a putback.
Yeah, man.
That was impressive stuff. That was impressive. He deserves to be rostered in more than 37% of leagues, you said, Carl?
Yeah, actually, it's 35.7% leagues.
35% leagues.
Yeah, that's way too low.
That's way too low for a guy like that. A guy who is going to go out there and get those rebounds, those valuable points on the board. He's pretty much going to give you 10 a game too, man. If he becomes a double-double guy, like on a consistent basis, man, like you got a gem if you can pick up Kyle Kuzma right now for the rest of the season.
That's a big if.
That's a big if. Hey. That's a big if. I'll give you that. I'm a little bit infatuated with my guy Kyle right now. So I'm super biased over here, but Kyle, cruise control, Kyle Kuzma, bro. You already know. That's my dog. But the Lakers in general, man, balling. I think they are. I know Giannis had some shade for us this week, talking about after they lost to the Jazz, which Giannis, I'm very tired of you losing and then trying to slander the Lakers. It's annoying. But he said that, the Jazz are by far the best team in the West, and that it reminds them of the Bucks of last year, the way they're moving the ball and competing on the defensive end. And I just think that it's just another slight to LeBron James and the Lakers. I think that the Jazz are a very good team, not slighting their efforts at all this year. They got the best record in the NBA, first in the West. But are we taking the Jazz for real? Like, are we going to do that this year? Like,
it's like the Atlanta Hawks back in the day.
Yeah, like, are we going to do this? They're just like the Hawks. Like, do we take the Jazz seriously? Do we think, like, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are for real going to take out the West and their superpowers? Like, I don't think so. So, like, I just don't think that they're built like that. I could see them losing the first round situation, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm being honest, man. I just think that I think if they catch a team that's, a little bit hungry, maybe happens in the first round, if they fall like a number 2 or 3 seed at the end of the season, they're coming in 3 playing the 6.
Maybe a 8 seed Warriors team.
See, I don't believe in the Warriors at all.
You think Steph Curry could take over a game against the Jazz?
A game, maybe.
A game. I was watching Steph last night. I don't know.
All right, I think you guys are slandering Steph a little too much. He's hooping right now.
Yeah, he's been hooping, but they don't have it. They just don't have the rest of the pieces to have them win playoff games.
Listen. In his last 3. No, let's go his last 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His last 5, 57, 32, 32, 40, and 27. You can't tell me he can't take over a 4-game series.
But is it enough?
7-game series. My bad. 7-game series. 4
I
games.
think he can put up those numbers during a 7-game series, but I don't think his team is good enough to help him win games.
We'll see. A lot of it depends on how good James Wiseman turns out to be by the end of the year.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, what was that? Over his last what games? What was that?
5.
So last 5 games, L to the Mavs, L to the Spurs, they then beat the Spurs, beat the Magic, and then lost to the Nets. So you're looking at 2 and 3 in their last 5 with him putting up those numbers. He needs some help.
Yeah, without James Wiseman though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he still needs some help.
He needs some help. He needs another guy that he can give the ball to and he can just trust to get him a bucket, whatever. And I don't think he has that right now. I think that he uplifts his players. He's got, his brother-in-law on the team shooting pretty well. And he's like, I'm all about the team this year, but he needs another guy that can just go get a bucket. I really think that they thought that Kelly Oubre was going to be that guy for him. And no disrespect to Kelly, he's playing a lot better basketball. But he's just not that guy on a consistent basis on a playoff team, man. Kelly can't be the number 2 scoring option on a playoff team. And I don't want to talk about Andrew Wiggins.
Let's not start.
I don't even want to talk about him, dude. Like, for real.
I was actually going to shout out Kelly Oubre. His last 3, he's had a double-double, 17, 10, 17, 10, 12, and 10. So shout out him. And then Draymond Green as well. He can't get into the double digits in scoring, but he's been in the double digits in assists and rebounds a couple of his last couple games. So
he tweaked his knee last game, so I wonder how that's going to play out.
Yeah, he came back in though. I was really nervous, man. I thought that it was like a bad one, but he came back, so that was a positive sign.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything on this injury report, so he should be good to go. But we kind of strayed away a bit there from the Lakers.
Yeah, a little bit. I got 2 kind of controversial statements on the Lakers, and then I'll say my piece. My first one is that I think that Taylor Horton-Tucker, if he was in this draft class, say we're counting Taylor Horton-Tucker as a 2020 draft pick for the Los Angeles Lakers, just like, doesn't matter what pick you make, obviously, because he's going to get drafted in 2020, but it's a first-round pick. I'm saying that his ceiling is as high or just as high as most of the draft picks in that first round. And I'm willing to even tell you that I think that with serious playing time, like if you put him in a situation like LaMelo Ball, all I'm saying is that it would be a show. I think that he would give him a run for his money rookie of the year if he was in a position where he could do the things that LaMelo Ball does. With the ball in his hands, control, he can make mistakes. They don't care. He's not a championship team. He's on a team that's, trying to make the playoffs. THT, man. I think he's the second best. I think he's better than, I'm going to say it. I think he's better than Tyrese Halliburton. I'm going to say it. And I mean it. And I mean it with the bottom of my heart. All right. I mean it. I think he's better. I think he's better.
I was waiting for you to throw out names.
That's spicy.
That was a hot one. I'm
a Halliburton guy, so
I like Tyrese, man.
I can definitely see it talent wise. Will we ever know? It's because of that situation. Because this responsibility of being on this championship team, they're just gonna limit his minutes and all that. But
yeah, that's fair. But that was the spiciest one. My next one is just we need to stop playing. Your 2020, 2021 MVP is LeBron James. We need to stop. All right, let's just put the narratives to rest. Joel Embiid, happy for you, man. Playing good basketball, staying healthy. Big ups to Joel and Philly. I don't care. All right, Nikola Jokic. It's free. I'm almost at the level where I'm trying to say free Jokic. I'm almost there because that team is not doing enough for Nikola Jokic. He's out here giving his all, dude. I mean, I think I've seen him dunk like 3 times this year. That's how you know that his effort levels are like through the roof. Like, I'm like, what? Like, but here's the thing. LeBron James is 36 years old, man. In this last string of 5 games, if that doesn't tell you that LeBron James is the MVP of our league after being robbed by the man who Devin Booker said when the ball was in his hands, we were in good shape. because he can't shoot. Robbed by Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that it's a done deal this year. I think that we put it all aside. We look at who's the most valuable to their team. It's LeBron James.
Yeah, I think it really does come down to how many games the Lakers win this year. If they win 55 plus, I don't see how they couldn't give it to them.
Yeah. Especially
with AD sitting out so many games this year, games this year. But
yeah, that's where I am too. Where it's just I'm still trying to fight the fact that the league just has not wanted to give the award to LeBron, and so it's like, are they actually gonna do it this year? Like, I hope they do because he deserves it. But we all know where me and Tyler stand if they don't.
You guys are rolling with JoJo, huh?
No, I'm with JoJo. He's with
I'm with Joker.
He's with Joker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, three-way split. I get it. Don't worry. We'll figure it out.
I'm not planting my stake just yet. I just want to say that my mind could change as the season goes on, obviously. But right now, I don't. It's the Jokers to take.
All right. I can see. I'm my flag's planted. I'm going JoJo. If he plays like, I don't know, probably like what, say like 60 plus games this year, and they end up first in the East. If it's a big if.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I think that it'll be tight. I think it'll be tighter than people expect. I think that people are willing to give LeBron the MVP right now. I think that that's just like the consensus with NBA players and stuff like that, like ex-players and analysts. But we'll see. It's all a politics game at the end. I think that something that you said, Tyler, was like that it would benefit, the NBA to give it to a smaller market like Denver. Like Denver just never have they ever had MVP? Like that's something to look into. I don't think they have. So like the first MVP from Denver, I mean, and a guy that's honestly deserving of it, that would be a pretty cool story for the NBA. It would definitely get some money in. Fans in Denver love their Nuggets. So like, I can see that. I can see that from a politics standpoint for sure. But none of that matters because the Lakers are the best team in the NBA. They're going to win another championship this year. I feel like Bill Simmons, they're going to win it next year. And they're going to have a lot of 30-point games when they're on the bench and they're just laughing and having a great time. High five, and THT's going to be all-star. So
you're not going to find any disagreements here. The Celtics will see you guys in the ship. And we'll move on from that. We'll move on from that L that we take against the Lakers, and then we'll come back. And we're just our goal is to just keep getting these good-ass rookies until LeBron James retires so that we can take over.
Kate Pritchard, man. What a guy.
Yeah,
Kate Pritchard. Love the guy.
Also, before we even do anything else, because you mentioned the Celtics, I think the Celtics are going to get caught in between greatness, the talent greatness, based on generation. I think they're going to get caught in between LeBron just staying along a little too long and somebody coming up the rear like over the next couple years.
No, we're not going to get into this too deep, but their average age is like 22, 23 years old or something like that.
Bobby Bates league. Not yet.
You guys are going to make me tear up over here. Stop it. All right, we got to move on. That was a long Lakers segment, but that was a good one. We covered a little bit of all the NBA. All right, man. Justice, you got anything else to say about the Lakers?
As always, Lakers are the best team in the NBA. Bleed purple and gold. Big week coming up, man. We're seeing Denver tonight. We've got Miami and the Nets. So huge test for the Lakers. We'll see how they go. But, as always, the Fantasy Basketball Podcast, DOB, always and forever, goated. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Lakers Specialist is out of here, man.
Peace out, Justice.
Hey, games.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Once again, shout out to our 106 subscribers or something like that we have now. Love to see it. If you stuck around this far, you guys help out the algorithm so much. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, leave a comment down below who you think is going to win MVP. I think it's going to be Joker. Carl's got JoJo. Justice got LeBron. It's kind of a toss-up right now. You don't know. But if you haven't already, also like the video. We love to talk to our fans, so just comment about anything. We don't care. Anything else you got to say to the people, Carl?
Just same old. I appreciate y'all. It's been really fun doing the show and growing. And just let us know in the comments ways we can improve. Talk about your teams, anything, because at the end of the day, like, we love doing this, but it's also trying to help you guys out and foster a conversation around the game. So just comment below anything basketball or anything. We just want to interact with you guys.
Yeah, to add on to that, we literally respond to every single comment. It doesn't matter what it is. We'll respond to any comment. And then if you want to talk more basketball, not just on comments and YouTube videos, hit up our socials, or especially Twitter, District of Buckets Twitter and my Twitter. We are constantly talking basketball on those things. So make sure you look those up. Check out our Instagram accounts, whatever. We love to talk basketball. It doesn't matter what platform. We really appreciate you guys watching. This has been another week of fantasy basketball. This week presented by District of Buckets. Peace out, guys.
Yep.